All right. So welcome to how to collaborate with partners to engage parents in the role of advocate. Today's training is the fourth and final workshop in our series, Practical Strategies for Engaging Parents in Collaborations. Today's facilitators include myself, Janet Vargas, and Angela Farwig from Illinois Action for Children, with a very special appearance by Keisha Harris, a parent leader and advocate. All right, please take a minute to introduce yourselves to us and to each other. You can share your name, affiliation, and role, as well as your location in the chat. And feel free to share anything else you want to. And while you're doing that, Angela and I will introduce ourselves as well. So again, a pleasure to meet you if we're meeting for the first time, and pleasure to see you all if we've met previously. My name is Janet Vargas, and my team and I, the CS3 team, provide technical assistance, training, coaching to early childhood collaborations in Illinois. I joined the team in 2019 with about 10 years of community organizing experience, most of which I spent at a statewide organization that carries out parent leadership training and parent-led advocacy and organizing. And I'm very excited to be here with you. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Angela, to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Farwig. Thank you so much, Janet. I am the Vice President of Policy Advocacy and Research here at Illinois Action for Children. I am pretty new in my role. I started at the end of March, but I have been working in the early childhood space for about 12 years, both at the state level here in Illinois and more locally for a few years in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is my hometown. So really excited to be here with all of you today and to be a part of this awesome team here at Illinois Action for Children.
Thank you, Angela. All right. And I invite you to keep an eye on the chat and see who else you'll be sharing space with today, and we'll be moving forward with today's agenda. My mouse just died. All right, it's all good. All right, today's training is an introductory training aimed at members of early childhood collaborations or groups doing community systems change work. However, if you are not a collaboration member, no worries. You're more than welcome to stay and take what is relevant to your work. If you want to learn a little bit more about what our collaborations are, how they work, and where you can connect to your local collaboration, we'll be sharing a few resources in the chat. All right. With all that being said, participants, you all, will learn about the role of parent advocate and its benefits, how to collaborate with advocacy partners to engage parents in this role, and partnership opportunities with Illinois Action for Children's Advocacy and Policy Department. And here's how we're going to do it today. I'll give you a minute to look at the agenda. I do want to point out that you will have a 5-minute break a little bit after 11. But please feel free to take care of yourself as needed. I also want to let you all know that this workshop is participatory in nature, but we understand life. It's Friday, it's the end of the week, and we'll try and meet you wherever you are. Before we break the ice with this poll, I want to also point out that I want to point out that we put the PDF in with today's PowerPoint in the chat, and then I want to make a make some space to allow Keisha Harris, a parent, our special appearance parent leader and advocate, to introduce themselves. Sorry, Keisha, I didn't know you were on. Do you want to unmute and quickly introduce yourself?
Okay, I don't know if you can see me. Can you see me? Okay, I'm coming from my phone.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, great. My name is Keisha Harris. I put a little blurb in the chat, but I am a parent advocate, newly parent advocate, and I'm very excited to be here and to continue learning. I'm originally from Southeast Louisiana, and I've lived in Sangamon County for the last about 5 years, a little over 5 years. And I'm really motivated and excited to learn as much as I can and do more. I have a 4-year-old son who is really the reason for all of this that I'm doing right now. He is just my light. So, and his name is Roman, and he's in preschool. He was in early intervention, and now, he's in the preschool program, half day. And it's been, for me, a wonderful experience, and I'm very thankful for it. So, yes.
Thank you, Keisha. Pleasure to have you. And Keisha's going to be sharing her testimony later on in the training. We look forward to it. I'm very grateful. All right, so let's break the ice with a short poll to gauge kind of the range of experience with advocacy for everybody in the room. So Armand, can you launch the poll, please? I just kind of want to check to see, do like a quick temperature check to see what kind of advocacy experiences you all are coming to this training with. If you haven't had much, no worries, that's why you're here. So if you could just take a second to fill out the poll, to complete the poll. I don't see anything on my end, Armand, so you let me know how that's going and when you think we're ready to share the results.
We are a minute in, and there's about 75 participation so far, or 75% completed.
Thank you. We could give it a few more seconds and then we'll share, because I think because it's a small group at the moment, you, Angela, and myself might be that extra 25%. Thanks. Can you share the results? I don't see it. If you could just read out loud, it'd be great.
Sure. All right. So 16% participated in Advocacy Day in Springfield. 42% met with a decision maker, such as an elected official, with an ask or recommendation. 63% reshared or shared an advocacy-related social media post. 37% wrote or signed onto a letter to a decision maker to persuade them one way or another. 21% said none yet, and 5% said not sure, and another 5% said other.
All right. For anybody that said other, feel free to put it in, put what you did in the chat. We'd love to kind of learn what everybody's up to. I thank you all for that. Okay. We're going to start with a little bit of background information before we dive into today's content. I just want to review that when we say parent today and in general, that we're using the Head Start definition of any adult or anybody that shows up for their child. So it can include, but is not exhaustive, to biological, adoptive, foster parents, grandparents, legal and formal guardians, uncles, aunts, adult siblings. So as you can tell by this picture, really anybody that shows up for their child. I love the picture. Great. Another note is that this training is based on our community systems parent engagement framework, which you can read all about in our parent engagement handbook. You can find the link in the chat and in our website, partnerplanact.org. You won't need it today per se, but we wanted to leave it with you for future reference. And I want to let you know that our framework outlines 4 typical roles that collaborations can engage parents in within the community systems and policy sphere, the green circle. We know, again, they're not exhaustive, but they're a good start. And today we'll be digging into the role of advocate. You can find more information on the other roles and on our framework in the Parent Engagement Handbook. That is in the chat. Right, well, let's dig in. So what is advocacy? Advocacy is the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal. It often consists of influencing a system's decision maker to either support a change in policy and or practice, stop a change in policy and or practice, and or allocate resources. Let's see, and we're going to give you all a chance to participate in a little bit of advocacy of your own. We're going to do an activity that we've entitled Best Month in Which to Be Born. You'll get 7 minutes in a breakout session. I know it's fast, but this is a quick activity. So once you get into your breakout group, you're going to pick a timekeeper, which is going to keep the time, and a decision maker. Once you're all situated with those roles, the decision maker is going to take 30 seconds to share what they think is the best month to be born in. And everyone then after that is going to take 30 seconds each to persuade the decision maker that their month is the best month in which to be born in. Like, for example, if I was born in January, I might say really quickly, you know, January is the best month to be born in because it's the first month. You get to, you know, have a clean slate for the year. Everything's on sale because the holidays are over, and they just keep going with why you know, you make a case for that being the best month to be born in. And then by the time we come back as a full group, the decision maker will have decided the best month in which to be born, and they will participate in a voting process. So any questions on that before we put you in those breakout groups? All right, well, Armand, you can go ahead. You should do whoever's the decision maker. I hope you're ready with your opinion and your vote for what's the best month in which to be born. And Armand is putting the link in the chat so that only the decision maker for your group is going to vote for the best month in which to be born, which is October, of course. There you go, see? All right, we'll see. It's a 4-way tie. 5-way tie. All right, I think that's it, right? So there is no clear winner, but it was fun. I see the chat that it was fun. I'm wondering if the message was we should have organized together rather than individually. I don't know, you all can approach this however you want. Well, thank you for that. I hope it was fun. No clear winner, but everybody wins because it was fun, hopefully. Let's see. All right. So questions for you. How is this activity an example of advocacy? And you can either use the chat or unmute and jump in.
Working together for a cause.
Yes.
The various different opinions and the reasons for them, they were both like positive, and so you can see positivity on all of the sides and all the spectrums, but also those downfalls. So it's really interesting to hear the pros and cons of everyone and the different ones.
Thank you, great. Let's see, it's hard for a decision maker to know who to listen to. So many good answers. Yeah. So yes, this, in this activity, you supported a proposal for the best month in which to be born in. You attempted to influence a decision maker's actions. And decision was made kind of, sort of, or at least a vote. And you were impacted by the decision. Low stakes, but if you're like me, you wanted your month to win. And I see in the chat too, it's supporting for what you believe in. Yes, using your lived experience, right? And so, yes, this is definitely an example of advocacy, low stakes advocacy. And Khadijah, like y'all could have approached it however you wanted, together, individually, but something to think about. And diversity, yes. Cool, so there you go, everybody. Thank you for participating in our advocacy activity. And so now that we went over what advocacy consists of, then having said that, who is an advocate? So we believe that advocates are people that care passionately about an issue and take action to create meaningful change. And since decision makers are often stewards of and accountable to the community, we firmly believe that everyone and anyone can and should be an advocate, and that the voice of those most impacted should be prioritized. All right, and so we've been talking about decision makers. Who are these early childhood decision makers? I'll hand it over to Angela to walk us through that.
Janet. So this is a slide that's going to have a fair amount of information, but we'll walk through it step by step. So this sort of breaks out, when you think about who the early childhood system decision makers are, the need to sort of dig into where is that decision maker located? Is it a local decision maker, state level, going up the chain? So at the program or local level, this can be anyone from, who's managing a program, who's managing the site, could be staff, it could be a board of directors. When you think about like your local community, that again can really differ depending on where you are. It could be the city, it could be a county. In some places, it could be, in the education system, a regional office of education, it could be a school board. And so, really targeting, especially, at that local level, figuring out who actually is making the decision, who has to approve, or who, is in charge of the money or the program decisions. That's really important. And it can look different depending on where you are in that local level. Looking at the state level, just wanting to sort of call out here specifically for early childhood in Illinois. Wanted to talk about in terms of program decisions. That can depend, depending on the program. So obviously we have a governor and they're they're the executive for the state and they're sort of setting the overall policy agenda. But in our state, we actually have 3 early childhood agencies that sort of work in early childhood to some extent. So we have our State Board of Education, we have our Department of Human Services, and we have the Department of Children and Family Services. So it's a little complicated in Illinois, although we're not alone. Lots of other states have different agencies working in early childhood. But again, thinking about what is the program you're specifically interested in and what agency is overseeing it is good to know when you might need to advocate for a program. Then when you're thinking about laws, so again, these are things that are in law, or thinking about funding, that's decided by our General Assembly. And so that is the group of folks that represent us in Springfield. And we have, everyone has a state rep and a state senator. And so always good to have those relationships and go right to that member of the General Assembly when you're thinking about state level laws or funding. And then just wanted to also mention the federal level in here too. And so again, it's sort of similar to the state in that, when you're thinking about programs, sort of more layers of bureaucracy here, but we do have 2 federal agencies that work in early childhood, our Department of Education and our Department of Health and Human Services. And so again, sort of thinking about where is the program located is always really important. And then same with the laws and the funding. You want to look at your members of Congress. So everyone will also have a congressional representative, a representative and a senator. Obviously, we have 2 senators from Illinois in our state. So yeah, that was just sort of a quick overview about early childhood system decision makers. I know we have a pretty complex system in Illinois and again, similar to other states, so it can be a little bit challenging. So just but I know you also are all experts in your local areas. And so just building those relationships at every level is a really great strategy.
Thank you, Angela. Yes, and so it is complicated. And this is a kind of a broad overview, but I think that's why also we are encouraging everyone to collaborate and partner with advocacy organizations. And if you have any questions, they're there and we're grateful for them. Thank you. All right. So now that we did a quick run through of what is advocacy, who is an advocate, let's get into the role of parent advocate, right? That's why we're here. Let's start by going over what the role entails. So in this role, parents participate in advocacy efforts on issues that will improve the early childhood system. And this doesn't necessarily mean that like parents will become experts in, like all these players, all these, advocacy strategies, but they can if they want to. However, it often consists of families telling their story of how they have been or could be impacted by a specific issue. And we have some parent advocacy examples, but I'm wondering and would love to hear from you all. What are ways that you have engaged parents as advocates, or you have been engaged as an advocate as a parent? And you can use the chat or unmute and jump in. So what are ways that you have engaged parents as advocates? Or you've seen parents engaged in the role?
So for us, we've started to engage parents to become parent ambassadors for the All Our Kids Network. And so we're trying to involve them in the new initiatives that we're going to be taking on over the next 5 years. And, I guess just learning from them and giving them a voice, and also giving them the opportunity to be the voice for their community as well, to share their concerns, their issues, and be able to make change in the systems that affect them as well.
Thank you, Lorena. Yes, there's many, different ways to engage parents in the role of advocate. Some of these include participating in advocacy days, either at local, state, or with local, state, or federal officials. How many of you have participated in a Springfield Advocacy Day? You just, you can do an emoji or just kind of raise your hand. We like our advocacy days. Sharing a personal testimony with their elected official or any decision maker for about how a potential change will impact their family. Yay, Lorena's going to say she's participating this upcoming week. Exciting. Parents also can circulate a petition, sign a petition for or against a policy change. And sometimes we don't even think about it being advocacy, but whenever we're sharing a social media message around a campaign or an ask, like that's advocacy, right? You don't even have to create it, you could just reshare it. And these are some ways to engage parents in advocacy, but there's quite a few other ways to do so. And then we're going to put it in the chat too. A really great advocacy toolkit that Illinois Action for Children has created that has a list of other advocacy examples that you can engage parents in as well. And then why might a collaboration want to engage parents in this role? So why are you all here? Why do you want to engage parents in this role? Okay, I'm seeing some action in the chat. Okay, so to empower parents to speak up and support them in their efforts. Thank you. Making child abuse prevention awareness posts, linking parents to relevant resources. Yes, and anything on why you want to engage parents in this role? Because they're the experts and we can empower them to make their voice heard. Thank you. And people agree with you 100%. Yes. It's definitely a way to support parents, especially the voices of those most impacted by that potential change or lack thereof. It's a way to align, your community systems change work to the community needs, right? What do parents need? It's a way to influence broader system changes that will support your collaborations work. Sometimes you want to increase access to childcare, and there's only so much you could do if families cannot afford it. You might need a bigger systems change to advance your collaboration and community goals. And I think, and this is probably the most powerful piece and why it's so effective, that having people that are most impacted speaking directly to power, it reminds decision makers that their decisions impact real people. They're just not numbers, they're just not, ideas, they're people and children. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. To build an alliance of parents to advocate for what their children and family needs drives increased funding. Yes. All right. And then when we engage parents in community systems work, everybody wins, right? So parents benefit by shaping the early childhood system. They strengthen relationships with decision makers. So then they can, I've worked with parents who then just like are BFFs with their elected official, and anytime anything comes up, they are empowered to just walk into their office and let them know what they need, which is beautiful. They gain knowledge of broader early childhood systems change processes, and anytime a parent is engaged in a leadership role, they build skills, knowledge, and leadership. So we're going to go into kind of the how now. Some of you might have been hoping for a training for you to engage parents as advocates directly, and you'll get some of that. However, I do want to emphasize that community systems work is all about not doing everything yourself, right? Especially when there's people, advocacy partners that are already doing this work, they're experts, they're getting funding and resources for it, and they want to work with you. So today we're going to discuss how to collaborate with early childhood advocacy partners to engage parents, either directly or by connecting them to it's already there. Okay, so first you'll want to identify your early childhood priority issues. And so I know this is collaboration. If you don't work within a collaboration, it could be like your programs, your groups, whatever, and however you're working, you will want to identify, so like what issues do we care about and what changes do we want to see? And you can do that in terms of the engaging parents by convening and supporting parents, like a parent group, to identify their list of issues that impact them and like their priorities for what they want to see changed, and or the collaboration, including parents, can identify broader system issues needed to advance their mission, vision, and goals. And so ideally, it'd be one and the same, right? Because you have parents engaged throughout the collaboration. However, we know that people are in different places in their parent engagement journey, and that sometimes groups of parents will be able to identify their issues as they arise, while collaborations might be still catching up. So now we're gonna give you all a chance to talk to, not just me. What are your collaboration's priority issues? So we're gonna put you, well, first of all, individually, we're gonna put a Jamboard link in the chat. And if you can take a couple minutes to think about and add, what are systems change issues that your collaboration is working to improve? Or would like to improve, and so you could just put them on the Jamboard. Any of the first 3 frames work. If the first frame gets filled, feel free to add in the next one. So this can be, like, we'd really love to increase childcare access. We'd love for there to be more workers because there's a workforce shortage. Early intervention access, like what are the things that your community would love to see changed in early childhood systems? So we'll give you a couple minutes. And so here's the Jamboard. For those that might be new to Jamboard, access to cash. See, I love it. We're already getting started. If you're new to Jamboard, the way you go about adding your little post-it is you take the 4th logo here on the left, you left click it, it'll open this box up, you write whatever you want, and then you save it. You could change the colors if you want, and it'll populate the post-it up here on the left, and you can left click it and just drag it over. And if anybody's having issues adding their stuff onto Jamboard, you could put it in the chat and we could pop it up there for you. These are coming fast. We know what system changes we want to see, huh? And if you're running out of space in this frame, you could navigate to a different one using this little arrow on top. right, and while you're finishing putting up kind of all of your system issues, we're also going to give you a chance to talk to one another about them. I know there's a lot of them, so if you want to pick your top 3 and to share with your breakout group, we're gonna put you into those breakout groups for for about 5 minutes or so. So Armand, you could go ahead and put into the breakout group. So any questions about what you're going to be doing in the breakout group? Share your top 3 systems change issues. All right, have fun. Is everybody back?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I have so much going on and with my screen, sound like I need help from Armand to let me know these things. So how was that? And you could unmute or jump into the chat. Like, how was the experience of even like identifying your collaboration's top system change issues? Is it something you think about a lot, or like, would it take you a minute to really identify some of those things?
So for our group, we had to kind of first like summarize what what was on the board was in order to kind of make sense of it. And so we came up with a couple of buckets. One is like support to strengthen the child welfare system. One, improving specific policies and procedures within the child welfare system. And then the third being direct support to families. And then the work was to kind of think about, of those 3 buckets, like which ones do we want to prioritize? And it was really challenging, but one that we came up with that we wanted to prioritize was liaisons of families, because while we work to improve the system and make it more supportive of families and young children, there are families who need help right now. And so providing liaisons was a great, like, stopgap way to support our families while we're working on the system as a whole.
Look at that. Your group just came up with a whole campaign. Good job. Anyone else want to share, how that experience was to even identify your top system issues?
Hello, this is Valerie. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera today, but
Good.
we took a little bit of a different approach and just kind of talked about what each of us was working on. And I think really what it came down to is that even if you pick your top 3, there's so many like levels to each of those that it's important to get down to like the root cause of things. So overall access, equitable access is so multifaceted. We really focused on empowering families to be advocates for their children. And in doing that, like there's so many barriers or challenges. And so like increasing their knowledge, giving them opportunities to express their concerns or whatever in a welcoming and safe environment where there's not discriminatory practices or fear, but then also the workforce issues, even though we're having staffing shortages, like also making sure that the current staff has professional development that welcomes parent and community engagement and feedback. So I think just really at the end, it's easy to pick like major, concerns, but embedded within like those 3 topics are so many different aspects of it all.
Thank you, Valerie. Yes, there's a lot going on that needs immediate attention, right? Prevention, intervention, recruitment, and kind of retainment. There's a lot going on. Thank you all. And then just also wondering, how did the issues compare across communities? Were they the same? Were they different? Or anything anybody wants to share before we move on? And if not, we're meeting you where you at and we're moving on. Thank you all. So once you, I think that's the first part, right? I think to your point is like, there is a lot of issues that we would love to see change, but we got to start somewhere. And choosing kind of like, okay, what issues or what changes do we want to see, and do we want to put energy into changing like right now? And then moving on to the next. And so once you kind of have an idea of what systems change issues or like policy issues you want to really take on, you'll want to choose an advocacy organization to partner with, which means researching kind of what's available, right? In your handouts, we have on page 2, section C, you'll have a list of some of the local advocacy organizations in Illinois that are doing, early childhood advocacy work, and their websites tend to be pretty good. So that's a good start. But really the best way to get to learn what they're doing and to share what you're doing is to meet with them. And so, setting up a meeting to share your issues with your collaboration wants to promote, learn more about the issues that they are working on as an advocacy organization, usually have like a list of like a policy platform or a list of bills that they're working on. And you can ask about particularly, what existing advocacy opportunities they have for parents and for community members, and then what supports do they offer. And it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to kind of work on something that's already existing, but you can also, I've seen a lot of advocacy organizations that are open to kind of starting new efforts and kind of working with folks who are on the ground, which is you, to see how to work together. And then from there, you can move forward to partnering with an advocacy organization or organizations that best kind of align with your issues and with your style, and just the one that works. And once you figure out who you're going to partner with, you will want to determine how you will partner with them. You could either lead parents in your own advocacy efforts, of course, with the support of the advocacy partner, and or connect parents to existing advocacy opportunities. And we'll go through some examples of what might entail each of these. Some examples of collaborations leading their own advocacy efforts can include, supporting parents to meet with their elected officials at their in-district local office. It's great to go to Springfield, to DC, but elected officials also have offices, and they are off during certain times of the year. They will be in the community. You can support parents to invite and host their elected official for a visit at your program or your event. This is, I think, when working with parents, this is a great way for parents to show off their community, their program, or the work that they're doing. Invite them to a collaboration meeting. I used to work with a school that every fall they would have like an elected official breakfast, and they would just cook this amazing breakfast and just have them over and build relationships, so that when they had something to ask, it was a lot easier. The way to the heart is through the stomach, for me at least. They can, y'all can organize a petition or write a letter. It doesn't have to be such a heavy lift. Oh, there we go. And but I want to hear from you all. What are some examples of ways that you can partner, that you can lead your own advocacy efforts for parents? What have you done, or what have you seen people do? And if it's already included on there, no worries. These are I think some of the most popular ones. And some examples of connecting parents to existing advocacy efforts include every year, except for maybe during the pandemic, advocacy organizations organize advocacy trips to Springfield. They'll pay for the buses, they'll provide training. There's, it's a lot of fun, and even supporting, a group of parents to attend these advocacy trips. It's a great way for them to take on that role. They can also join the Illinois Early Learning Council's Family Advisory Committee. And if this is the first time you're hearing about the Family Advisory Committee, Angela is going to talk a little bit more about it in a minute. You can become members of existing early childhood statewide campaigns. And we have a campaign that we run out of Illinois Action for Children that we're going to be talking about as well. And then, we're lucky that recently there's also been a lot of work to gear up for some advocacy through the Birth to 5 councils. And Armand put the link in the chat to the Birth to 5 website if you want to learn more. Oh, okay, I'm seeing in the chat that Family Council and Action Council. There we go, see? Great minds think alike. To advocate, connect, and collaborate with entities to improve childcare access, quality, equity, and address law gaps. Yes. Thanks. So, and no matter if you choose to lead your own advocacy efforts, connect parents to what's going on, I think the main underlying message is leverage advocacy partners' expertise. So, what are ways that you can leverage their expertise? What are ways that advocacy partners can help you in your community? And so that question is for you. And if you want to put it in the chat or unmute. So you all talked about all the issues, all the changes you want to see. How can advocacy partners help you?
Hello, this is Valerie again. I would say in terms of my work, our advocacy partners really serve as a network for connecting us to those decision makers or elected officials. Oftentimes they already have established partnerships. And so it can be hard, like you said, to get an audience with an elected official if they're in Springfield or on break or whatnot. And they have so many people coming at them with different things that really just the networking opportunity for me personally is very beneficial.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm also seeing in the chat resources, connections along the same line. Yeah, so advocacy partners can support by providing trainings, right, for collaboration support staff and for parent leaders. They can help even attend or set up those meetings with parents and decision makers. And if they don't attend, what we've also done in the past is being on call or giving you their card in case the decision maker wants more has technical questions that maybe the parent leaders don't have the information on. You say, hey, we don't know, but you can call Angela at Illinois Action for Children. But first ask Angela if you can and let them know to expect a call. And they could also offer, let you know what's going on, right? What's going on, what's the advocacy landscape. They can let you know who's that decision maker that might be the person to talk to about the issue that you're wanting to change, and overall just advising you on strategy. All right, so that 5-minute break that we all told you about is here. Please take 5 minutes and come back at 11:15. Cool. All right, so we talk a lot about, excuse me, partnering with advocacy organizations and in the past section, but we also want to leave you with some tools for what you as a collaboration still should and could be doing to support parents in the role of advocate. As with any time that you're engaging parents in any role, I want to say, if you take on engaging parents in this role, your responsibility is to eliminate obstacles for their participation, right? Offering convenient meeting schedules and locations, ensuring key materials are available in formats and languages that parents can understand, compensating parents if you're able to do so, providing training, coaching, guidance, encouragement for sure. And and anyway, really just asking parents that you from your community what they need to be able to participate, and then tailoring that and offering that, whether it be transportation or every community is different, so meeting those needs. And so we talk also a lot about trainings, right? A big part of supporting a parent in an engagement role is making sure that they are equipped and supported to take on the responsibility that is associated with the role. So even if you kind of tap in an advocacy partner to carry out an advocacy training for parents, you can still play a role in that, and making sure that those trainings are accessible and tailored to in a parent friendly fashion, right? And so recommendations are to keep the training high level. And what I mean with that is, in general, like, to be an advocate, you don't need to understand like the nuts and bolts in and out of like the whole system, but just kind of like enough to know how things are happening. You don't want to get in the weeds. And I think for when you're thinking about engaging parents as advocates, I think the main, really the again, the most powerful way that one can engage parents is to help them share their testimony, their story, their voice, right? Like, how is this issue impacting them directly? They are the experts in their families and their communities, and they're the best to speak to this point. So really focusing, I think, the trainings on this piece. Everything else can be, handled by someone else, but nobody else but parents can speak about how they're going to be impacted directly, other than children, family, but community members. Always include hands-on training and practice, right? It can be intimidating speaking to a decision maker, sharing your story, public speaking, and so kind of practicing in a safe environment before you go to maybe an intimidating environment. Okay, there we go. And what are other ways that you can support parents in this role with trainings? Heather, I'm loving whatever you're sitting on. You look so comfortable. I love it. Way to start off the weekend. Well, and any other way I think that you can, if you see a need, like Oh, having parent workshops, parent cafes. Thank you. Just a point right that oftentimes advocacy partners are in the weeds, they're in the trenches, they're used to kind of giving these like really wonky trainings. And so kind of it's okay to be a good partner and say like, hey, maybe we could do this different, or maybe you could use like more simpler language, you know, something like that. You can co-create a training. And then we definitely speak on topics parents want to talk about. Yes, provide coaching. Thank you. Yes, whatever you can think about, you know what I mean? Like you are that bridge between supporting kind of the parents in your collaboration, and then connecting them to the advocacy support. So thank you. And then I'm going to leave you all with a tool also that we put together for preparing to meet with a decision maker. So let me bring that up for you all. Where is it? Let's see. Armand, can you put the handouts again in the chat? My handouts are they're hiding between all these windows that I have open. So there you go. Thank you. So if you also want to bring out the handouts, we're looking at this tool. It's on page 3, section D. Right. While it's opening, let me explain a little bit what it is. So it's a template where, like, before you meet with the decision maker at whatever level of the system, I've used a template like this before with a national coalition, and I recreated it from memory because I don't have access to it anymore. But the idea is that before you go meet with a decision maker, whoever's going to be a part of that meeting, you can hold what we call like a prep meeting, a preparation meeting, and you kind of go over your goals for the meeting, who's going to do what. And this tool goes through, as you can see here, you can put like who are you meeting with, when are you meeting, where, who's going to be at the meeting, and then you identify a note taker for the meeting, and you the tool outlines kind of the different helpful segments, right? When you're meeting with a decision maker, it's a good idea to kind of start with an introduction, right? Who are you? Who are you they're representing? And then an individual introduction. So everybody, you know, as a group, but then every individual. And then you also, you can, as you go down in the tool, there's different segments. So like another segment is kind of like explaining why you're there. And these different segments can be taken on by different people of the group that are going to the meeting. So you can divide kind of the talking time, but also specialize, you know, those assignments. And then as you are meeting in the prep meeting, you can assign different people to take on the different sections. You can also, as a group, kind of say, okay, when you're explaining who you're there representing, you can make notes in this area on the talking points. You know, are you there representing a program, your collaboration? What do you want to share? You're going to bring like a 1-pager. And then once you go into the meeting, the note taker can use this column right here on the right to kind of write like what was said, or, you know, any reactions, anything relevant. And so I'll give you a minute to look at that tool. And then we're going to do an activity together. And as you're looking through the tool, look at the meeting segment column and think who might be a good person to lead this part of a meeting with the decision maker. A parent, an advocacy partner, a collaboration member, or someone else. And as you're reading it, if you have any questions, come off mute and let's do it. All right, so what we're gonna do in this full group activity is we're gonna go through each section and then brainstorm who would be a good fit for taking on that assignment, right? So let's say like there's again like a parent, a few collaboration members, an advocacy partner, and we're all preparing to meet with, who do you want to meet with? Your legislator. So we're there, we're preparing, and the first role or assignment that somebody can take on, I would say, is note taker for the meeting. I know it's not here, but this is very important. Someone to document kind of what was said, what are the commitments, what are the follow-ups. So who would be a good fit for taking notes at this meeting? You could just put it in the chat or unmute. Or an organization representative. Seconded, yes. All right, and you can share, you know, also like why you think that would be a good fit. I imagine you know, you'd want for parents to kind of be fully present and participating in the meeting, and sometimes when you're taking notes, you kind of, it's not as easy to do that, right? Yes, and yes, I love, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Exactly, see, great minds think alike. And I love enthusiasm with the exclamation points. All right, so next, okay, for introductions, kind of explaining who you're there representing. And of course, for the personal introductions, everybody can go and do their own, but who would be a good fit for just introductions, leading this section? Okay, so the individual is more than likely familiar with everyone in the meeting, the person that coordinated the meeting. Okay. Yeah, and this is like also a pretty straightforward assignment, right? It's just who you are. Like if somebody who's maybe a little nervous, maybe don't put him up front to start the meeting. But also maybe somebody who just wants, you know, has already been to a few of these meetings and is ready to take on a role. How about explaining why you're there? So like, we're here to talk to you about early childhood issues impacting our community. Team leader. Right, and really, you know, some people might be best suited to take on certain roles. I think just reading the dynamics, and really anybody can take on any of these, really. I think it's just depending on how comfortable they are. And when you're kind of putting together and what you're going to share, it can be a group effort, right? Like y'all could say like, let's do this, let's say this, but then the person who's actually going to say it then is one person, right? Right. And then this part, sharing testimony. Talking about why the issue is important. Parent advocates. Yes, Ariel, a person who's affected by the situation. Exactly. Thanks. Yes, I think although a parent leader could take on any of these roles, really, like, again, like nobody but them could, actually, if you're impacted as a provider, you can, but you know, there's nothing like hearing from a parent who's directly impacted by these services. And then who can make your ask? And this is important too. Like sometimes you have a meeting and it's great, but then you forget to ask, like to make a commitment. And then sometimes elected officials can be really good at talking, but not committing. So this is really important. Parent advocate. Yeah, like how are you, that's a really good, also good opportunity for somebody who's directly impacted to really hold people accountable, right? Have a parent have an elected official say no to a parent that just shared their story. I mean, they can say no, but make it hard for them, right? To say no. And then last, you'll want somebody to summarize the next steps and thank them for their time. And really, I think anybody that is able to do it can take on that as well. Just want to make sure that you are really clear when you're summarizing the commitments on the end of the elected official. So I hope that this tool that you can use it, that you and that it's helpful or just kind of gives you some insight on how to carry out a meeting with an elected official in a way that includes everybody, especially parent advocates. Now I'm going to hand it over to Angela. No problem.
Thanks, Janet. Hi, everyone. So I have some slides to go over, and I know we're a little short on time, so I will just try to hit some of the highlights of each of the slides. So my name is Angela Farwig. My title's on there. There's a photo of me with my family. So I am a parent of 2 kiddos. They're a little bit older than this now. I have a 4th grader and a 1st grader. But of course, you know, have gone through those early childhood years with them as well. And it's obviously really great to be in this work as a parent. So moving on into our next slide, I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the Public Policy Advocacy and Research Department here at Illinois Action for Children. So there are sort of 3 separate areas, but we work really, really closely together. Our policy department works on, you know, changing laws, policies, and practices at various levels. We work a lot with the state, but also sometimes in communities and locally as well, and do a little bit on the federal side. So that means we meet with lawmakers, we draft bills, we are in Springfield, our state capital, to make our voice heard there. And we also work with some of the agencies on the administration of early childhood programs in the states to make policy changes. On the advocacy side, we really work to mobilize those who are most directly impacted by early childhood programs and policies to speak up and use their voice to let decision makers know what they want. So with our team, it means we work with other departments across the organization. We engage providers that are in our programs and parents as well. We also work through a coalition of parents and providers across the state, which I'll talk about in a little more detail. And on the research side, this really helps us understand when it comes to policy and advocacy, what's working for families and providers and what's not. We really try to get as much as possible real-time feedback to understand what is needed and wanted. And we really do on our team, we're so lucky to have some really brilliant people who are always looking at data, analyzing it to understand the numbers, and then also conducting surveys and focus groups and just hearing from different parents and providers. across the early childhood system to really help us build our policy goals and strategies. So on the next slide, this is a quick slide where we just sort of wanted to share our definition of advocacy and then provide a little more information just about how we think right now is a really important time in early childhood. So advocacy in our department, it means we work with parents, providers, and other community members to bring about the changes we all want and need in our early care and education system. So pretty straightforward. A couple things to highlight right now in terms of our policy and advocacy work. There's a lot of focus around young children and childcare in particular coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a renewed focus and energy around committing to racial justice and centering families in policymaking. And we also have some really great early childhood champions in our governor's office and in our General Assembly. So we're really energized right now on the policy and advocacy side of things. So on the next slide, we briefly wanted to go through like a timeline of the legislative cycle and just sort of walk people through that. And also just remind you that you can always contact your legislator at any time. Remember, they work for you. But we'll walk through quickly. So within the legislative cycle, sort of going through the calendar year, it doesn't line up with the calendar year. But if you look at the beginning of the calendar year, January and February is when the legislative session begins. So, advocacy organizations have sort of developed their agendas and they're starting to share them. They developed their budget asks, so how much money that they want to ask lawmakers to invest in early childhood programs. In February, usually the governor proposes a budget that is used as a blueprint for the General Assembly to start working from, although it's not necessarily what the General Assembly will do, but it's a nice blueprint. February through May, that is when things are really heating up in Springfield. That's legislative session. Advocates are in Springfield, regular meeting with lawmakers, testifying, supporting different bills, things like that. The session usually ends in May, and that's when the budget for the next fiscal year is passed. And that fiscal year starts in July. So June is not on here. June is just, take a break. But it's sort of, a time when people are, recovering from session and, maybe taking a little bit of a break and sort of getting ready to think through their strategy going forward. From July to October, that's sort of a really good time to start, again, thinking about how you might want to engage with legislators, start building ideas or awareness around policy changes you might want to see. Here, wanted to highlight that the summer months are really a great time to get involved with advocacy organizations. Again, that's when sort of a lot of groups are resetting from the session that just ended, getting ready for the next one. A lot of times lawmakers are home in their districts, so you can go meet with them in their districts, or you can invite them to a program or to meet with parents. So that's a really great time, those summer months, to start those connections. And then at the end of the year, it's veto session. So that's when the legislature comes back. They meet for 1 or 2 weeks. And, they sort of finalize any unfinished business and sort of get ready for the next year session. So yeah, I think I'm going to just move on to the next slide to share a little bit about our coalition. Unless anybody would like to jump in and share any story. I know we're going to hear from a parent, Keisha, in a little bit. But if anybody else would like to share a story about how maybe they got started, got connected to an advocacy organization, maybe you can drop that in the chat, or I can wait a minute if people want to jump in. Okay, well, I do see something in the chat. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, feel free to chime in at any time. But we did want to go into, I see Lorena wrote Kofi. Yes, Kofi is a fantastic organization that really works with parents to get them engaged in advocacy. So definitely recommend reaching out to them. Thank you. So we wanted to share a little bit about a specific example of how parents can get involved in advocacy and partner with us here at Illinois Action for Children and with many other parents and providers around the state. And that is through the We the Village Coalition. So on the next slide, we have just like a large list of all the different folks that are involved in the coalition. And I will not read all these to you, but and this doesn't even have everyone. But it's a group of parents, providers, civic leaders, school district representatives, different advocacy groups that have really all come together. And we definitely would, we're always open to new members. We're always trying to find more different types of parents and different providers to make sure that we're representing the full diversity of our early childhood system and the families in our state. So here, this is a slide that sort of shows the big picture policy agenda for We the Village Coalition. So, obviously when you have a group, you want to be advocating for certain goals that you want to see achieved in your advocacy efforts. And with this particular coalition, it was formed a few years ago, sort of around the same time that the governor of our state, J.B. Pritzker, was forming a big funding commission to really look at how early childhood in our state was funded. And so that commission met for a really long time, and our coalition was really able to participate in that process, which was fantastic. And they came out with these 3 big picture recommendations. I will not, read these to you verbatim, but basically, again, these are very big picture recommendations around we need a lot more money invested in our early childhood system. We'd like to see, you might remember back when I spoke earlier, we talked about those 3 different state agencies in our state that administer early childhood programs. We'd like to see those sort of combined into one place to make it easier for everyone. And then just really working on our funding methods. So how money is getting distributed. Can we understand it more? Can we get to better ways that are easier for programs to navigate where they're not sort of piecing together everything or getting paid after the fact of serving children, things like that to help promote stability in our system. So those are our big picture coalition goals. So to get to those goals, every year, if you go to the next slide, you'll see the coalition, which is called We the Village, does a campaign, which is called Right to Care. And so you'll see a lot of things, messaging and branding, by the coalition, but then it's part of our Right to Care campaign. And the reason we do that is to really highlight the initiatives that we're really focused on right now. Again, to reach those big picture goals, what is the next step? What is the action or the issue change we want to see happen? And so as part of the Right to Care campaign, we really try to do a lot of storytelling and promoting the voices of families and providers and community members in sort of getting towards our goal for the campaign. So for this year, the Right to Care campaign is really focused on, as I mentioned before, the governor's budget that was proposed in the State of the State address earlier this year. Some people might have heard about this, and we can certainly share more information about it, but the governor has proposed a plan that's called Smart Start Illinois, and it's a really huge investment, honestly, in early childhood for this year and then the next few years as well. And so all of the advocates have really mobilized and are supporting this Smart Start Illinois plan, which calls for investing $250 million in a variety of early childhood programs in this coming fiscal year, and then building on this investment over time over the next few years. And you'll see on this slide, there's an image of sort of a one-pager on Smart Start Illinois, and that is sort of a key messaging tool that many advocacy groups use, a one-pager to sort of quickly summarize the issue, what you're trying to do. And so here's an example of that. On the next slide, oh, it looks like we animated this. Okay, let me remember what I had here. We wanted to share some examples of engagement opportunities for parents. And I want to emphasize that, advocacy organizations are well positioned to support parents in doing all of these things. So this isn't necessarily something that, parents would do on their own. They can, of course, but just want to emphasize that advocacy organizations are always happy to support. So some examples, through We the Village of ways parents can get involved is, going on social media, of course. We have for We the Village, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts. We have a handle at We the Village IL. And you can share and like and copy and do all of that to sort of promote that social media aspect of advocacy. We also have our coalition, and we have monthly calls where people can join to share information, get updates, do some strategizing around our coalition goals. You can sign up, even if you can't attend the meetings, you can sign up to be on the email list and receive updates from us. So definitely encourage folks to do that. And then on this other slide, we just wanted to provide a few more examples of how parents can get engaged, not just through the coalition. So always want to encourage parents to meet with their elected official, and you can find your elected official on the ILGA website, which is in the chat. You actually can file witness slips. So I just wanted to let people know that that is a thing that anyone can do if you know your bill number, and you again can sort of walk through this process, but you know your bill number, you can go on the website, you can find the committee where that bill is going to be discussed, and you can actually electronically click on a link and put your name and your organization and indicate if you support or oppose the bill. So that's sort of a really powerful way to get involved in advocacy. And then we also wanted to quickly highlight, and I apologize, I couldn't get the links to look blue here for some reason, but you know, getting involved with different family councils that have started across the state. So I know we have folks from Birth to 5 here, and those regional family councils are a really great way to get involved. There's also a state level family advisory council, which is part of the Early Learning Council that has been meeting for a couple of years, and stay tuned for some more information about that, but that group is going as well. And so you can stay tuned and click on those links.
Angela, there's a question
yes.
in the chat.
Sure.
Do you want me to read it?
No, I can read it. I have some parents whose children do not attend the public school or federally state funded school, but would like to advocate. How can they become advocates? Great question. I mean, I think the question is, you know, what do they care about? What are they interested in advocating for? You know, you can still advocate for public funds, for public schools or public funds for early childhood programs, just because you know that it benefits your families, you know, and your community and us as a state as a whole. You know, that doesn't stop you from advocating for those programs. You know, we all benefit when our young children are thriving. So you know, I would encourage but you know, those parents to also just pursue some of these opportunities. I don't know, I hope that answered the question. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, now here comes the best part. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it over, I think, to Keisha to hear a little bit more about how she got involved in advocacy as a parent. Keisha, if you're still on.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me turn this down, sorry. So I initially got involved. I've kind of been a lifelong volunteer, but I was volunteering with another organization, and then the director of that organization became the director of Birth to 5 Illinois Region 51, and she said, you should really be on the family council. And so I applied to be on that, and that's kind of how it started. But then I kind of didn't know this world existed, and I just I did a deep dive. And that's how I found Illinois Action for Children, We the Village. I mean, there was some that I hadn't found, but that was kind of the start. And I'm kind of I will email people. So I just started emailing, and I was able to get some like one-on-ones, you know, communications with people in like We the Village. We the Village was very responsive. So that was really great. And I was able to immediately start attending the meetings for We the Village. And I feel like it was very helpful, because even though I was still very nervous about being a parent advocate, over time those nerves kind of went away. And I actually don't have a problem talking to anybody. It's just, this is so very important to me. You know, my son, you know, he had a wonderful experience, you know, receiving his early intervention services. He is thriving. And when I found out that other parents are on like year-long wait lists, that really got me, because, you know, my child he had very few words. You know, he was gibberishing, and I can't even imagine, you know, him being in that space, and then being on a year-long wait list. That would be devastating to me. So, you know, once I found that out, that was like very, you know, that was kind of like the tip of the iceberg. Then I found out that, you know, the workers, you know, aren't really getting paid very much. And it just continued to like increase the passion, you know, to want to do something about this, and have, you know, every child to have the experience that my child, you know, has experienced, in order to thrive as best that they possibly can. And then of course, obviously that, you know, I found out through We the Village, you know, giving me so much information that there's deserts. So, I mean, there's so many things, but again, just learning, finding out about all these things helped me to become, you know, more passionate and motivated to, you know, be out there more of an advocate. And I'm still learning, still, you know, trying to gather up information as much as I possibly can. But I just want every child to be able to have access and, you know, be able to thrive. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, can we see? Hi there.
Sorry.
That's definitely the highlight, I think, of today's training. Hi, Roman.
What's his Roman? Roman.
He's like almost nap time, so.
I have 2 boo-boos.
Oh, you got 2. Oh, you do? Oh, from yesterday. Falling, but while running.
Yes. Thank you for sharing those.
Oh,
I roll it off, and I hit the nurse down.
at his daddy's, yeah. Boo-boos all
It
around.
happens.
Oh, thanks for
Well,
sharing, Roman.
You're welcome.
Keisha, well, I wonder if anybody has any questions for Keisha. I guess one of my questions is, so this is how you got started, but what have you been able to kind of participate in, and how is that for you?
I mean, so for me, the meetings have been amazing. With We the Village, I ended up getting a little bit more involved. So I got on like the comms committee and the organizing committee within the coalition. And then of course, Birth-to-5 Family Council for Region 55 meetings there. I went to Advocacy Day. Advocacy Day, I wasn't able to speak to legislators that day, but afterwards I was able to speak to decision makers and just kind of wet my feet, because I was still a little nervous. But kind of like dipped my feet in the water. And that was kind of connected to Birth-to-5. But yeah, I mean, it's been a very wonderful experience. I actually learned a lot like on this call, because I thought to myself, when you guys were explaining like, okay, how you go to speak to these legislators, because I live near the Capitol, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm gonna just start, I'm gonna go, you know? And hold on, little one. So, but looking at this, it seems like there's a kind of a formula to use, and I did not know that. So I'm realizing like, oh, I need to like kind of reach out to, you know, somebody to be a note taker and all those things. So
why is he doing that to me?
It's blurring you out a little bit. So,
She's too
So-
cute.
so at any rate, yeah, so that was, and I think somebody said something about, they're like, well, you know, a parent advocate can do like all of the things, but I kind of like see the importance when you guys broke it down of like having somebody to kind of help you. So that's great. I know, you know, everyone at We the Village has just been extremely available for any questions. It's been a wonderful experience, and I try not to bother folks, you know, so, you know, I mean, I know it's not like, it's not a bother, but I know you'll have a lot going on. So I try to ask, like, you know, the questions, get all my questions in like one email. But everyone has been very helpful. And sometimes I think as a parent advocate, you don't really know what to ask. So I love you too. And that's kind of like another layer of it, like just kind of like you're just starting. You don't, you know, you motivated and passionate, but you don't really know what to ask, right? Because you guys have like all the information, all of the experience, but like we, you know, obviously are like living it, right? Like, I mean, and some of you guys are living it too. But when you know all the ins and outs, and we're kind of like on the outside trying to like get in, sometimes it's hard to like know even the question to ask, to like, I don't know if anybody understands what I'm saying, but yeah, that's a thing. But it's been a wonderful experience. So I'm excited for the future, and yeah, it's been great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you and Roman.
Oh, say thank you.
You're welcome.
Shaking your little one, no, get down. Or you hurt yourself.
I won't do some right choices.
Yes, green was.
I like green choices.
Well, thank you so much, Keisha. I wish we could hear from you more. I'm sure. Well, there's, you know, always different opportunities to collaborate, and we'll be reaching out for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I love you, guys.
Oh, we love you, Roman. Have a
That's
good
the
day,
message we
okay?
needed today. Thank you.
Guess what? Hey, guess what?
Robin, stop.
Look at that smile.
So I know we're wrapping up quickly here. So I will just say these are some photos from our advocacy day that Keisha was able to attend. And it was a really great day. And a lot of advocacy organizations have advocacy days, and happy to provide more information about those. And I know some folks have been to those as well. So I will now, and then here is a few resources and next steps. We do have a We the Village meeting next week, May 4th at 12 p.m. So let me know if you'd like to join.
Thank you so much, Angela and Keisha and Roman and everybody for joining us today. That concludes our training. We hope you enjoyed it. I'm not even, you know, I don't have to see me. So just want to leave you with an evaluation in the chat. If you can take a couple of minutes to please give us some feedback about how we can make this training, how we can improve this training, honest feedback. We really appreciate it. And then we'll leave you with also some resources for parent engagement that we have. Use it on our Partner Plan Act website. We give you the parent engagement handbook, but if you lose that link or whatever, it's always on our website. We also have some on-demand learning modules, an on-demand learning course, which is our trainings that you can do on your own at your own time around parent engagement and collaborations. We have parent videos about parent leaders in being engaged by their collaborations and community. And we also offer on-demand consultation, which is short-term coaching for collaborations who are doing this work and would like extra support, or groups that are trying to start a collaboration in their community. And of course, keep in contact. Here's our my email. It was a pleasure sharing space with you today. Thank you for being with us today on a Friday, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. I'll stick around if anybody has any questions or